Hey, what's up? It's Ro. I just wanted to talk a little bit about the Philadelphia Trans Wellness Conference. This is the last day, and I've experienced a lot of things. I've met a lot of really great people, and I really wanted to talk to you about my favorite workshop that happened today. It's called the Phalloplasty and Metoidioplasty Show and Tell, and the presenter was Gaines Blasdell. Sorry if I said that wrong. It was a very safe space. They continued from the beginning until the doors were locked that this space was going to be a closed, private space to only those individuals who are seeking surgery, bottom surgeries for themselves only. So no partners of, no parents of, you had to be 18 years or older. Oh, they also wanted to make sure that before we started that we did not clap or have any applause as people showed us their surgeries, just to make it less awkward. Some people might not be comfortable receiving applause for that, or just really to just hold any of your judgments aside and just take in the information. So what you really heard a lot of guys saying is when each one was done, it was us saying thank you. So we would just say thank you, and then the next person would talk. So that felt really good, and of course we clapped at the end for everyone's bravery and vulnerability, for our growth. You really had to come to this show and tell with knowledge, a lot of pre-knowledge about how these surgeries work, so that you could keep up with the things that they were talking about, like UL, which is urethral lengthening, so that you could stand to pee, things like that. The metoidioplasties went up first. To be perfectly honest, was always less leaning towards that surgery for myself as an option. What stood out for me with the meta guys that did their show and tell is that that option clearly is what they wanted, and that there was still a lot of variety in that. Some of them had scrotal implants, other guys didn't. Some chose urethral lengthening so that they could stand to pee with their metoidioplasty, and others chose not to do that. Some chose a vaginectomy to close their front hole, others decided to keep it open. So it really was a lot of individuality, and there were comments about sensitivity, like what sensitivity do you have, pleasure with sex, and alleviating dysphoria. So a lot of them were able to still penetrate their partners with their metoidioplasty penises, and that was really cool to hear. And in general, it seemed like that worked for them, and they're very happy about it. It seemed like there was fairly little complications from that group, which was interesting. Moving into the phalloplasty guys, there was more phallos in the room, and that's where you really started to see a variety of shapes, sizes, widths. People who were maybe their first stage in, or people who had already done 4 or 5 surgeries and recovered for many years. So it was a real wide variety, and you could see the recovery from the way, like their skin tone in terms of their scarring. Like some were further along in terms of the healing process, and it was just good to see a wide range of what it would really look like and hear their firsthand experiences about what recovery looked like. And from what I'm hearing from them is, as you start to heal more and more nerve endings are connecting, and so sensation only is getting better over time with their healing. So that was really great to hear that from them, and a lot of them can orgasm and enjoy sex. 2 guys specifically mentioned that none of their partners, like a lot of their partners, have no idea that they've had a surgery, and so because they're stealth, and that's very important to them. So I thought that was pretty cool. There's 2 different types of phalloplasty that I heard in the room. One is the semi-rigid rod, and the other is the inflatable implant rod. It seemed like there was a fairly even amount of both. I think there was 2 guys with full pumps already like healed inside their penises, and they were able to show us what it looks like to pump them up and for their penises to become erect or hard, and that was like the most mind-blowing thing for me to see too. Well, that's my personal testimony, that really caught my eye. But the semi-rigid rod guys were just as happy with their choice, because they could still, you know, be rigid enough to penetrate, but also I think what I'm hearing is that the rod is maybe a bit more stable. One guy who had the inflatable rod mentioned that he had it replaced multiple times because of vigorous sex, so those can apparently break if you're not careful or if it hasn't healed enough. So a lot of the talk is really just the priority of healing and taking that time. Okay, so a lot of the guys were very honest in talking about any complications they had during surgery or afterwards, and there was a wide range of complications, some that cleared themselves up within a few days, others that led to larger complications. I want to touch on the fact that all of them said you need to be prepared for complications, and it's really about your individual body and how it heals. And so I want to tell you the story that really blew my mind in a really sad way. Was the first guy to get up and show his penis told us he got his surgery done in 1993, and that seems like, you know, maybe one of the first phallos done, and he didn't have any complications with the actual genital reassignment. It was actually the complications were with his legs. So the surgery took about 29 hours, he said, and his legs were up in, you know, the hospital stirrups, and for the entire length of the 29 hours his legs were not moved at all, and that led to a large complication with his muscles. And I don't know specifically what that looked like, but he mentioned an additional 30 surgeries on his legs to save his legs. And he was standing in front of us, so he's got his legs and he's got his penis, but realizing that the journey might not look perfect, and you just have to be prepared. Some guys that are in between surgeries stages talked about not thinking about having to really live in that in-between stage for as long as they are in between surgeries, and how that can be a bit complicated or even painful. Some guys are doing something to stretch the scrotal skin in order to add the implants in. Some people have enough skin to put both implants in right away, and some people need to slowly stretch their scrotum. And depending on how you do it, it can be painful, or if the scrotal sac isn't really sitting where it should be, which would be in front and hanging like this. Some guys were experiencing them going, you know, one in front of the other, or just too far back, so things like sitting and walking in tight pants were starting to be uncomfortable. So revisions can be done. So there's just it's a process. It's very clear that it is a process and not one that you should go into lightly, especially thinking about complications, recovery. And every single guy made it clear that you need a caretaker to take care of you for at least 4 weeks. It's no joke. You're gonna be on your butt for a long time, and mentally, what is that gonna look like? Even though you're physically maybe closer to your goal, clearly there needs to be some mental preparation. A lot of them talked about the fact that they went to see a therapist beforehand just to kind of get things out of their head, because when you're recovering and just sitting in your own thoughts a lot of the time, that's when they're seeing a lot of this post-surgery depression, which seemed to be kind of a common thing, based on the fact that you are immobilized for a fair amount of time afterward. And also the healing process maybe isn't the best to look at, especially when you know what your results can be in the future. I would liken it to maybe when I saw my chest reveal for the first time, knowing that I was so happy that they were gone, but also knowing that the scars were still very new and fresh. So just knowing that I was on the right step, but also knowing, okay, I still have to heal and take it easy. And so it seems like a very similar idea, but it is going to be much longer and a much bigger decision to come to. But overall, I was so impressed with the amount of knowledge and the vulnerability of all the people who so bravely got on top of a table and pulled down their boxers and continue to talk about their surgery and point things out in a room full of like maybe 100, 200 people. So props to everyone who shared their stories. It means a lot to me, and I know it meant a lot to the other guys there too. And if you're ever really looking, I know a lot of these guys say that they are on certain Phalloplasty Facebook groups, so maybe you can tap in and find these guys who might be willing to share with all of you. So the best way to look at any surgery, or specifically this bottom surgery, is really just likening it to your entire transition, which is kind of slow and steady growth and progression in seeing results. You don't take testosterone one day and have a beard the next, as much as we might like that. So just realizing it's all a process, and I don't feel overwhelmed by the idea anymore. Coming here, I was ready to take in information and preparing myself to not feel dysphoric in the process of gaining that much information, so that I'm not walking away from that feeling like a lack or not having, but just opening my mind to the possibilities of what that might look like for me, or if I want that. And I just feel like I just took in a lot, and I'm super grateful for that, and I just need to kind of like chill and sit with these things. And I think talking out loud has made that process easier, so thanks for listening. Take care.